In 1985, Steve Jobs was fired from the very company he created. Imagine building your dream from the ground up, pouring your heart, soul, and every waking hour into making it real, only to be cast out, told you're no longer wanted. The world watched in disbelief as Silicon Valley's prodigy was ousted by his own board, left to wander in the wilderness of uncertainty. But what happened next would become one of the greatest comeback stories of our time. If you love stories of resilience and comeback, stick around, because this one will blow your mind. To understand Steve Jobs' journey, let's rewind to the very beginning. Born in San Francisco in 1955, Steve was adopted as a newborn by Paul and Clara Jobs, a working-class couple living in Mountain View, California. The Jobs family didn't have much, but they gave Steve all the love and encouragement they could. From an early age, he was curious, taking apart electronics with his dad, asking endless questions, and dreaming big in a world that often felt small. After high school, Steve enrolled at Reed College in Oregon. But after just 6 months, he dropped out. His parents simply couldn't afford the tuition, and Steve felt lost sitting in classrooms that didn't inspire him. Yet, even as a college dropout, he didn't stop learning. Instead, he hung around campus, sleeping on friends' floors, returning Coke bottles for spare change, and sneaking into classes that interested him, like calligraphy, which would later influence Apple's revolutionary design. It wasn't long before Steve's relentless curiosity found a kindred spirit. Enter Steve Wozniak, a brilliant engineer with a knack for building things most people couldn't even dream of. Together, in a cramped garage in Cupertino, the two Steves started Apple Computer. Their goal? To make computers accessible, personal, and beautiful. The Apple I was born, a simple wooden box with a circuit board that would plant the seeds for a technological revolution. The company grew at lightning speed. By the time Jobs turned 30, he was a millionaire many times over. Apple was a household name, its iconic Macintosh computer changing the way people worked, played, and communicated. Jobs was hailed as a genius, a visionary, and a rebel. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. As Apple expanded, so did the pressure. Investors demanded results, and the boardroom became a battleground. Jobs' uncompromising standards clashed with his executives. His intensity, once admired, became a liability. In 1985, the unthinkable happened. The board decided they could do better without him. Steve Jobs, the founder, was forced to resign. It was a crushing blow. For the first time, Jobs faced public failure. The world wondered, was he finished? Would this be the end of his story? But Steve Jobs wasn't done. Instead of giving up, he doubled down on his vision. He founded Next, a new computer company focused on building powerful machines for education and business. At the same time, he bought a small, struggling animation studio for $5 million. That studio was called Pixar. Jobs poured his energy, creativity, and fortune into both ventures. Next's computers were marvels of engineering, ahead of their time, though not immediate commercial successes. But Pixar? That was where the magic happened. Jobs believed in the team's dream of creating the world's first fully computer-animated feature film. In 1995, Toy Story premiered, captivating audiences and critics alike. Pixar didn't just make movies, it redefined storytelling for a new generation. While Jobs was finding new purpose, Apple fell on hard times. Without his vision, the company struggled. Products flopped, and the brand lost its shine. By the late 1990s, Apple was near bankruptcy. Desperate for help, Apple called Jobs back. This was his moment. Steve returned to Apple in 1997, bringing with him the spirit of innovation and the lessons learned from his failures. He slashed unnecessary products, streamlined the company, and demanded excellence. In 1998, Apple introduced the iMac, a colorful, user-friendly computer that reignited the world's imagination. But Jobs was just getting started. Next came the iPod, transforming the way we listen to music. Then the iPhone, which put a powerful computer in everyone's pocket. And finally, the iPad, blurring the lines between computers and tablets. These devices didn't just save Apple, they changed the way we live. Steve Jobs' vision shaped the modern world, from the way we communicate to the way we create, work, and play. If he could rise after losing everything, maybe you can too. Steve Jobs' story is about more than technology. It's about resilience, the courage to start over, and the power of believing in yourself, even when the world counts you out. He once said, "Sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith." Jobs never lost faith. He embraced failure, learned from it, and used it as fuel for his next act. His journey reminds us that setbacks aren't the end. They're often the beginning of something greater. The garage where Apple was born? It was just a starting point. The boardroom where he was fired? That was a classroom. The animation studio he bought on a hunch? It became a creative powerhouse. Every low point in Jobs' life was a pivot, a chance to reinvent himself and push the boundaries of what was possible. When Steve Jobs stood on stage to launch the iPhone in 2007, the world saw a triumphant return. But behind that moment were years of struggle, reinvention, and relentless passion. Jobs wasn't just selling gadgets, he was sharing a piece of himself, a belief that technology could empower people to think differently, to dream bigger, to change the world. If you enjoyed this story, imagine the next one. Subscribe for more inspiring journeys.